This is Steve Harris from Iron Maiden and British Lion. You're listening to Andrew McCaskey from Scars and Guitars.
Welcome one, welcome all to the show. I'm so pleased you can join me for a conversation with Peter Iwers from The Halo Effect, and formerly he was a member of In Flames. There you go. Now, throughout this conversation, we discussed the upcoming album, the new one, the second release from The Halo Effect. It's called March of the Unheard. It'll see light of day early 2025. Peter examines how it differs from other projects, including the debut from The Halo Effect, Days of the Lost. He talks collaborative dynamics and addresses the possibility of Patrik Jensen joining as a full-time member. Elsewhere, yes, we do talk about In Flames. I think I'm something like public enemy number one over in the In Flames camp these days because of all the questions that I ask the former members, but maybe they'll just have to take a ticket behind all of the Danny Filth fanboys that are out there who don't like what it is that I do, but who gives a shit? I don't do it for them. I do it for you lot who are listening and are tuned in, as well as for myself, of course. I like doing this. So yes, we discuss In Flames, if he has any connection to his former bandmates. He's got an interesting response to that one there. His experiences aboard 70,000 tons of metal and reflections from contributions across his career. It's another enjoyable installment to my mini conversations with the former members of In Flames. So here he is, Peter Iwers.
Hello.
Peter, just in time, I'm just downloading a sampler of Wasps, the Seven Savage. So there you go.
There you go. Awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, good, man. Good. How have the calls been going?
I'm sorry, what? How
have the conversations and the interviews been going?
You're my first today, actually, in this. But I do other stuff as well. So I've been having different types of meetings today. But you're my first interview for the day when it comes to the music. So I'd say it's going well so far.
Fantastic. So the beer company's been taking up a bit of your time as well.
Yeah.
Is that
yes,
right?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the meetings I had today. I have the beer company and some restaurants that I do as well, and I kind of like to stay busy. So some days I have to multitask, and today's one of those days, which is great. So now I'm all yours for the time that we have. But normally I do the restaurants and the beers at the same time.
Mm. Was that part of your let's call it an evolution, if you like? Was part of your evolution out of In Flames that you wanted to do some other things and be a bit more dynamic in that way?
Well, I started the restaurants. The first restaurant I started in 2011 was when we opened it. So that was like I had it for 5-6 years before I left. It's hard to say. I just realized at one point that I wanted to do something different. I was done with at that time. I was done with touring, and I wanted to stay home and focus on my family. And then it became like naturally that I stayed more focused on the stuff I did back home, like the businesses. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a bit of
bless you.
cold weather.
God bless you.
Yeah, so it was not the reason why I left, but the development from leaving ended up me being more invested in my businesses personally.
Gotcha. Yeah. How do you find juggling everything at the moment? Is it have you got a good team around you? Obviously you do, but what was the process like in getting that good team around you with the beer company and the restaurants, and even with the work you're doing with the Halo Effect?
Trust, I would say. You have to have a lot of faith. I'm kind of somewhat of a control freak when it comes to work. I really want to be involved in a lot of it, and that's been both a blessing and a curse. A lot of times I kind of need to step back and show others that I do trust their work. At the same time, I do want to be involved in all the steps just to kind of learn at the same time. When it came to 2112, we built a good team. We started out a certain way, and had to terminate most of that team that we started out with because of the trust issue didn't quite work. People didn't quite live up to what our expectations. So we had to restart it and hire different people. And along the way, you meet people that you actually learn to trust, that have hard work ethic, and that you want to get more involved in the company and the business. And where we are now, it's a very tight team when it comes to 2112. And we started another couple of restaurants with the same team. So that works really well. When it comes to the brewery, it was Daniel who started it, and I joined him, basically. He always brewed the beer, and I marketed it. Then we got a couple of more guys in, and, you kind of build a mutual understanding on how you build a dynamics in a company like this, especially when we travel as we do. And the same thing with Halo. When Niklas came to me, he wanted to start a new band. We talked about how we can do this without falling into old loopholes, so to speak. And same thing there. It's a matter of trusting each other. Building. When it's a band, you build a family. You build a brotherhood in our case, and that's what we did. We trust each other. Everybody has different roles, and everybody trusts the rest of the guys in whatever thing that is that they do.
Yeah. Okay. So that
Makes
leads into yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, you're all smart fellas, and I caught up. I've actually had a chat with you before, and with Daniel, and I did speak to Nick. I've spoken to him before as well a couple of times for the podcast, but on 70,000 tons of metal, I was on there as well. And
that's right. That's where I recognize you from. Yeah.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, how did you? What were your recollections on 70,000 tons?
Lot of good times. I always suffer really hard from jet lag when I moved to the other side of the world.
Yeah, so same. Yeah.
I had every other day I had to just go to bed, and I remember it being the same way first time we played within Flames. So it was coming to Miami a couple of days prior, trying to stay up as late as possible to kind of turn it around. Going on the boat, having a huge party. The next day, early bed, feeling sick, then playing a show. I had a great time. It's a fantastic trip. I've taken it twice, and I had such an amazing time both times. I really want to come back. And I think that it's a perfect setup because the way that it is, that there's no backstage, makes everything so much more relaxed, and if you want privacy, then you stay in your cabin, obviously. But if you want to be like I am, go out and hang with just anybody, I do that. And I had a great time. I got to meet a lot of new friends and a lot of old friends as well. And I think it's a perfect party. It's party 24/7 almost. It's good times, great bands and great memories.
If I'm not mistaken, it felt like as though they used the halo effect to kick off the whole thing. So I know Crypto were playing opposite you. There's how the setup is. There's one theater on this side, a smaller one, and then there's the main one. You guys played in the main one, and it felt like as though they used you guys to sort of kick everything off. In other words, I know there were other bands playing beforehand, but it wasn't until you guys kicked on and you could barely get into that theater. I don't know whether you noticed that, but from the stage where you were playing, but you could. No, barely
I did because I only came in and I had to go through the audience. So it was a little packed. But it's a great thing. It's like when as long as everybody gets to see it, I think it's fantastic. For us, it was a great showcase, so to speak, to be able to play in front of a lot of people from America, and I think it's a great way for us to get visibility over there because we've been around for so many years, but at the same time, we're a new band, A new band needs to build some structure and needs to build a following. And it's difficult, especially in this day and age where it's difficult to make a living off of music solely unless you're really big. So for a band like us that's been around for a long time as musicians, but we're a new band, we kind of have to, we can't jump on just any tour, because we need to have a financial well-being as well. We need to have a good structure when it comes to whether we make money or not. We need to invest our time smart. I think that playing in front of such a diverse audience as 70,000 ton was perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I think that gave you an opportunity. If I'm not mistaken, you actually played some material from March of the Unheard. That was the first time you played it on 70,000 Tons. Is that correct?
No, well, both yes and no. We did play two songs that were meant to be on March, but but for a lot of reason, we had to push the album until January now. It was supposed to be out this year already. So we just decided to release two songs instead, and record two new ones for March. So,
Okay.
when you have I forget the titles. The two ones I'm thinking about. Just give me a second here.
Sure.
Restart my brain.
You're a busy man. Don't worry, I'll get it.
No. It's just that. Here we go. Yeah, it's Become Surrender and the Defiant one, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, my memory. Those two songs were originally supposed to be on the March of the Unheard album, but we decided to release them early as singles, and we decided to put them into the sets. So yeah, they were. I think they were premiered at 70,000 Tons.
Yeah, they sounded fantastic, by the way. I mean, I think I've heard a lot of the songs from the album now, but look,
Thank you.
just with the album, I mean, it's always, from my perspective, I've done this a lot now, and it's always challenging to know what to say to a bloke like you in your position, because yes, the album is quality, and you guys all know what you're doing backwards at this point in time. But is there anything new, or did you purposefully do something different this time around that makes this album the first of its kind? Does that make sense? A question like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And my answer is a little bit boring, I think. I would say no, because we don't really think too much when we record. Niklas writes music all the time, and he's very generous in inviting everybody else into the songwriting process. There's no such thing as, no, I wrote this song, it's done. It's just like, here's a song, add whatever you want to it, change whatever you want. And like going back to when we recorded Days of the Lost, we went into the studio, we all had ideas to contribute, and then we just said, what are we going to aim for? We said at one point, we're going to sound like, are we going to do what we always done? And we just said, let's just play. Let's just play the songs and see what happens, and see what kind of songs. Obviously, I want a special sound on my bass guitar, and same thing with the guitars. And Daniel plays a certain way, and Michael sings a certain way. So we just went in and we did our thing, and the sound came out as it did. And I think that's what we do well. We just go in and create music and try to, obviously not repeat yourself, because that's no fun, but no, like real thought about doing something different. There might be an idea. There's a couple of songs that are a little bit more electrical, if you will, a little bit. There's a little bit more keyboards and
sure, yeah,
like sounds and stuff like that, but they're still written with a basic structure as always. So what we try to do is create new music without, we're not AC/DC that can do the same type of song in 350 different ways and still be amazing, So we have to do something new, but we do have a structure and a certain way of doing it, and it works really well. With that said, I'm sure there's some stuff in the back of our heads that we don't really think about that makes us do it a little bit differently, a little bit more mature.
Again, it's hard to know how to frame this question appropriately. Please don't take offense.
Just go, man. I never take offense.
I want to ask, you guys sounded too perfect when I saw you in Australia. I got to be honest with you. I'm a muso, and I heard you guys, and I thought, well, I know you guys have been doing it for 1,000 years each, but still, do you guys use backing tracks at all? Like guitar backing tracks, I'm talking about. Not.
Sorry, you disappeared for a second. I'm going to change my. I'm going to go on a different one.
You're right. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. It was breaking up in anticipation of the question. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
you got, look, honestly, I know you guys are shit hot and you know what you're doing, and I'm an old In Flames fan. I'm one of those guys from the 90s. And when I saw the halo effect when I saw you guys, I was standing in front of you. Of course, I was, being a bass player. It just sounded so perfect, and Patrik just fits in beautifully with you guys. Do you guys use guitars in the backing tracks?
No, we do not. We do have some of the keyboards and sounds and stuff like that
I can hear
recorded,
that.
obviously, because we have no keyboard player. But no, there's no guitars. Everything's there. We've talked about it, and I'm not saying it never will be, and I'm not saying that maybe there's one point that I don't know about, but everything's being played live, 100%.
Well, you guys are the tightest band that I've ever seen. Then, if that's the case,
well, thank you very much. I mean, we have such a good. I mean, it's good backbone. In Australia, we couldn't bring Daniel because he had to stay home and work with the brewery. So we had Anton, and Anton is Daniel's drum tech, and he's also a super tight guy and plays. He's the. I've played with a lot of stand-in drummers between my different bands and projects throughout the years. And Daniel has always been the most difficult drummer to replace. But I got to say that Anton did a perfect job.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Was that Australian tour? Was that one of the first times that you guys have, as a collective, have been out on a tour abroad? I know Europe's close by, but you know what I mean, where you've really taken the show on the road?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we did do a couple of shows in the US as well. Like small showcase clubs, very, very intimate, a couple of hundreds people. We went over to Canada on the same one, did a little bit bigger, maybe 1,000 or something. So we did that, but we didn't take any like light show with us at that point. So I'd say the Australian one was absolutely the first one that was, a little bit bigger. So yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, I had such a good time. We all did, but I've been to Australia a couple of times in the past, and I always wanted to go back. So to be able to come now and also to go to New Zealand for the first time, it was amazing. You guys are awesome. The friendliest people on earth.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I could tell you guys are having a great time. And look, I have had a couple of chats with Patrik as well, and he's a tremendous guy. And, we all love Jesper.
He's fantastic. Yeah, we all love Jesper, absolutely. But when Jesper's not there, Patrik is going to be, and he's a good friend for a long time and an amazing guitar player. Very down to earth, very, he's done the same trip as we've done with Cians and Haunted and all those bands, and there's never any problems. We all know what we do. Okay, we go there, we have zero expectations, and we try to do the best of it. And that's how we look at everything. We go there and we're going to enjoy everything. Like we had a couple of incidents this summer where, there was a flight that was missed due to like delayed starting flight, something like that. And we had to travel somewhere and stay on a shitty hotel to just get somewhere. And we always said, it's like, well, there's nobody I'd rather do this shitty trip with than you guys, So we're so good friends that we can actually just enjoy even a delayed flight. Fingers crossed that that's never going to happen again. But if it does, Patrik is a fantastic guy. So is Jesper, of course. But
yeah. I mean, but that's the point. Can you conceive, or is there a possibility that Patrik will? I actually bought the merch, and it's the first time I've seen it done in ages, and I loved it for this fact. You actually had all of your names on the back of the T-shirt. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I bought that. That was fucking perfect, because us old school people, we want the names. We want the association with the names on the T-shirt, and we want the picture.
Agree. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fantastic. But Patrik's name, that Jensen surname, it could even be there. So is it a possibility that you guys could add him as a full-time member?
As always, the talks. It's not something I think that I should speculate with in an interview, but I mean, there's always the talk. I would love to. I'm one of those guys. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to feel involved. So my idea has always been, and this is my idea, that when Jesper comes back, Patrik will remain. We'll do an Iron Maiden, so to speak. We'll do 3 guitar players. That's my personal wish, and we'll see what happens. But absolutely, I'm not closing any doors, because I love the guy. He's awesome.
Hey, just talking about March then again, the production side of it, it sounds like it's a continuation of what you were doing with the first album. So did you use the same production team?
Yeah, same production team. Niklas was a little bit more involved in the production himself this time. Before it was the whole band, and it was Oscar. So we went to Create Studios, as we did on the first one. This is now moved studios, called Studio Bohus now. He's a great guy. He's very relaxed. work with, to record with, and he brings out the best in all of us. And then we took everything to Jens Bogren for the mixing, and so we did that the same. It's a perfect. There's no way to no need to change that. It's for us, it's a perfect strategy, and we were very happy with the sound that the first album came out, and also now the second one. So I'm positive we're going to keep on that route for the next one as well.
Yeah, I really hope you do, because it's perfect. Like, to your point, you can't improve on what you've done.
No, I mean, we did that a lot with the old band, which was a great learning process. And sometimes it was definitely for the better, but I think we learned from everything we've done in the past, and to have this set up now with Oscar and Jens is it's perfect for Halo.
Do you feel any? Again, work with me here when I ask these sort of questions. I've just been doing it so long now, and you're a bloke whose bass playing I've been following for a long time, I've got to say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
The word is in competition, but what?
I actually got some of my practice basses right here. This is my little.
I can see the Ibanez. Yeah, the Ibanez, and I can see it. It's a nice one there.
These are only Ibanez's, actually. Now there's a Spectre as well. Yeah, of course. This is my second bass guitar ever, actually. It's a beautiful one. It's 4 strings. I bought it in 98 or 97.
97, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Good for what you do. Yeah, I've got can you see mine? Mine's a Status. You know Status from England?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic, mate. It's got graphite. I play every weekend as a cover musician, so I even play fucking ABBA, and
awesome, yeah. That's some serious bass playing on the ABBA tracks.
Oh, there is. Believe me, there is, and I've got to sing a lot of it too at the same time, and it's you're going backwards almost, down here and then back.
Yeah. No, I forget his name, but he's an amazing bass player. I listen to them a lot, and it's always in headphones, because then it comes out better, the way that it is.
Yeah, he's a Swedish bass player. He's a Swedish fella. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
They're all the Swedish team. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought there might have been some Americans or British in there, but no, they're all Swedes. You're not wrong. But yeah. I was just asking. Look, for someone like me and a lot of people listening, they get into the Halo Effect because of the association with In Flames, and I know the Halo Effect have their own fan. You have your own fans these days, but you've still got a massive cohort of people like me. So,
of course.
So do you still have a friendship and a relationship with the fellas in Flames, your old bandmates, Bjorn and co?
Well, Bjorn and I run the restaurants together, so
right. Okay.
We're all tight. Yeah, we talk all the time about stuff, about compare ideas when it comes to not ideas, but obviously we talk about touring, we talk about stuff, but we mainly focus on the businesses that we own together. But yeah, absolutely, we're good friends. There's no bad blood between anybody, but I know Chris Broderick, obviously, since his time in Megadeth and Jag Panzer and all that, and even Nevermore at one point. He's a great guy and a good friend, but I haven't seen him in a bunch of years. I haven't been able to meet up with him when they played in Gothenburg. And Anders lives in a different city, so I don't see him either. But there's no bad blood. But the one guy that I always keep in touch with is Björn. And then I don't know the other 2 musicians. I haven't met them. But there's absolutely just 100% positivity. So nothing like that.
Yeah. What's the prevailing sentiment you have toward those seminal albums back in the day? Clayman and stuff. Like, how do you feel about them these days?
I love them. I think this is a couple of years ago. I got some requests about doing some playthroughs, and I'm sure you can find it online. Mm-hmm. I played a couple of those tracks down in my studio in my basement, and I still know them, by heart. I could, if somebody woke me up and it's like told me to play this song, I could, I played them so many times, and I have them in my backbone, and so I love them. I'm very proud of what we did. I think we made some amazing music together, and it's a legacy. I'm really happy. I just received a gold record the other day for Siren Charms, which is one of the later albums we did. The first one with Niklas, so yeah, it's all positive.
How aware are you about the sentiment amongst musicians and old school fans toward, the Jester Race, Horacle, Colony, and Clayman are pretty much viewed it's the first time and the only other time I can think since Iron Maiden came out with those Magnificent Five albums, the band has come out with 4 albums that have every song's a banger. Every song is a classic song. Are you aware that that's sentiment that's building up out there amongst extreme metal fans and the musicians?
Not really. No, I know it was kind of after Clayman, people were really interested in what we were doing, and then when we did Reroute, when we started, I remember this was so funny and disturbing at the same time, because I remember vividly when we had like internet forums back then, right? So people could write and we could answer, and it was like it was pre social media. But I remember people writing, "Oh man, you guys are so awesome," and I could see like it was the same type of people sometimes that wrote. And we went into the studio, we started recording, and then we went on like a 2-3 week tour with Slipknot. And then the people changed their opinion. Even the people that had, glorified whatever we did, some of them changed their opinion just for the fact that we went out with Slipknot. We did not change anything. We didn't release anything between. And when Reroute came out, they were bound to hate it, kind of, So that was kind of like a, before and after thing. And that I am aware of. Even though I still feel Reroute is a fantastic album as well. That was, for us, it was an important album to do. We changed producers, we changed studios, and we kind of became older, so to speak. So I guess when you say it, I could understand that that's the situation, but it's not something that I ever sit and think about.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I get that. It's just, you to your point, you are very social and you're very congenial and, and you do talk to people. And I just wondered whether people had given you that feedback. Maybe it's just the people that I talk to, the people that interact with me because of the podcast. But yeah, there's just this absolute reverence that particularly Clayman and Colony, I'll single out Colony, is held in as being probably one of the only times where a band was building and actually delivered. Does that make sense? A lot of the times band build an album's a pile of shit or it's not that good, but you guys just seem to get better and better. And then, there's the sentiment out there about Soundtrack to Your Escape. I don't have to talk to you about that because you've heard that all before. But, there's 4 albums that just kept on going and going and going. So, of course, it's just one of the only times really that I can recall where a band was, the trajectory just, I can think of Iron Maiden and Cradle of Filth did it off the back of 2 albums, 3 albums maybe. But yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore. That's the point. Bands sort of, I don't know whether new bands, feel as though they're sort of worthy of investing in their own careers in that way or what have you. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And I always like to give you and Daniel and feedback that it's and Bjorn is really important what you guys did back then, because it really helped take metal out of the underground and make it a bit more prominent.
Well, thank you very much. I think Colony is I mean, I was part of the group and we were all good friends, so I was kind of aware of everything that happened before. I joined the band just as they had recorded Horacle. So I was part of the promotion for that tour and everything since then. But when we did Colony, Björn moved over to guitars. We got Daniel in on drums, and I started playing bass. So it was kind of like 3 new members, and I think they added a lot of different new elements to it. I had a different way of playing bass than Johan that played before me, and Daniel played different than Björn, and and different guitar than Glenn. So. I think it was a natural step then, but for us going into the studio then, it was just exciting. We've been on tour with an album that I hadn't played on, and I rewrote some of the bass lines live for those songs that we played to a way that I wanted to play it. Not that Johan's way was bad at all. It's just that you play differently, and to be able to go into the studio and record the first album together as this lineup was. It was very, very magical for us. So I'm happy to hear that what you're saying now, that these 4 albums together are considered like that. That's super cool to hear.
Look, with the exception of, I know most artists and musicians will say that their most recent album is their favourite one that they've worked on so far. So, excluding March, what's when you look back over you, it's been a long career for you. What's been the favourite album that you've been a part of?
I gotten that question a couple of times, and for me, it kind of boils down to my personal state of mind at the moment. I can like a lot of the songs, but I have a feeling of like you go through a divorce, or you do something else. Whatever your state of mind can be at the time, you will always remember it. At least I do, according to what songs I listened to at the time, or what songs I wrote or were part of. And I mean, I love albums like Colony and Clayman, obviously. Like I said before, it was magical to go in and record Colony, and when we did Clayman, we had some material behind us and some experience, and going in doing that with stepping it up another notch, kind of. And then there's albums after that I really enjoy the songs, but I have a little more difficult time enjoying the recording process due to various reasons. There could have been certain fights, there could have been certain stuff in your personal life. But if I had to choose one, I got to choose two, because I guess I'd say Clayman is probably my all-time favorite In Flames record. But because that's the recording process, the period in my life, everything around it was perfect. But I also do like some of the later albums. I like Reroute. I do like Soundtrack as well. But I'm not a big fan. A Soundtrack was a difficult period in my life. But I do like the songs. Does that make sense? It's like a different. 100%. If I just have to choose the music, then I'd say. But if I have to choose everything, it's definitely Clayman. Otherwise, it's a little difficult. Yeah, Sounds of a Playground is a fabulous album as well.
I think it was around about a sense of purpose that us old fans realised that the old In Flames was never going to come back. Was that a challenging album, that one?
Sense of Purpose. That's the first album, if I'm not mistaken, that we didn't record with Jesper, right?
Correct. He'd gone by then, I think. Yeah.
I think so too. It was
actually, he was on that one. I think it was, but he might not have. I mean, you guys would.
Sounds of a Playground then.
Playground. He wasn't credited. That's where Nick was credited as guitar, but I don't.
Yeah.
You got to take these things with a grain of salt. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't remember either. It's a big blur. No, I wouldn't say it was a difficult album to make. We at that time we had our own studio. We actually bought the old facilities that was Studio Fredman, and we were working in it day and night. And we had a great time together, just hanging out. It was the time when we shot all those online videos where Daniel became somebody else. I don't know if you remember that.
No,
and you gotta Google Daniel backwards.
Okay.
And the In Flames. We did a lot of like home videos. It was fun to come to the studio because we did so much stuff around the actual recording. So everybody was there every day, which is kind of rare, because you have a lot of other stuff to do on both those records actually. And I think it was a really enjoyable time. I think if I'm not mistaken, we recorded both those albums twice. We went in, we did the demos, and then we revisited it and recorded everything again.
Okay. Wow. Okay. There you go. I didn't know that. There you go. That's a new one. Yeah. What would you say has been the most significant challenge you've resolved and overcome throughout your career?
Being away from my kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's always difficult, even these days when my oldest, that was just a baby back then. She's in her mid-20s now, so she's a grown-up. Then I have two younger kids. It's still difficult when I go away. I mean, these days I don't travel as much as I did, but that's always been a big, big challenge. You kind of had to put yourself in Twilight Zone mode and not just think about it. And this is pre-cell phone time, so you had to go...
Yeah.
Collect call back home, and I did that maybe 3 to 2 or 3 times a week, and then you spoke for 5 minutes, with everybody, and then you went back into the blur, and they did the same. And everybody was used to it. The whole family was used to it. So, but when I stopped touring, I remember the joy in my son's eye when I told him, it's like, Dad is coming home now, and I'm staying, and he's like, he was so happy. That kind of made me feel like, I didn't realize how much he actually had to hold inside, So that was the biggest challenge, and it still is. Now we have cell phones and we can do FaceTime every day, but we can't hug, we can't, do that stuff. So it's
I know what
difficult.
you're saying. Yeah, I worked up north for a while, and a couple of years actually, and my marriage almost ended because of it, and I quit that job because. So yeah, I mean, I admire you guys that you can spend so much time away. I understand these days we've got iPhones and FaceTime and all the Zoom and whatever else, but it's still not the same as helping them with their homework in the time, the mathematics homework and all that stuff. You've really got to be in their household for that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to make this my final question for you. Thanks for giving me so much of your time, right?
Of course.
I'm a writer, so I always ask these sort of questions again. But you've definitely got a story to tell, mate. So please tell me that you've thought about or someone's approached you for a biography.
They have. We've actually did. We did just about a few years ago. We released a book called An Odd Story. And I wouldn't say it's a biography per se, but it's a story about Daniel and me, and it's a story about how it starts with our final shows with In Flames, and it ends with the first show of Halo Effect, and then everything in between. And the author, he interviewed us for a long, long time individually, and then together, and then he traveled with us, and then he spent a lot of times with us, and he kind of wrote what he saw. So that's as far as I've come, and nobody's actually approached me about doing it, but I really want to. I have a lot of material, and I do have a story to tell. My concern is that every time I read a biography with somebody else, there's always some. It might not be bitterness, but it comes out as bitterness, and I think that's a very shame, because I want to celebrate the life that I've led, instead of. Instead of sounding angry, because I'm not, So I do have a story to tell, but I'm very, very eager that it's being told in a positive way. Even the dark stuff needs to be approached, in a different way. So, so absolutely, I'm open for it.
Yeah, I've just written a Norwegian black metal guitarist, a pretty prominent one actually, and we went through all of that. And what all I've said is, if you're telling the truth, you got nothing to worry about.
No. I mean, one of the best biographies that I've ever read is Sammy Hagar's Red.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Even though he basically is saying that he's been such an asshole, but it's still with a smile, because he never meant to be, And I think it's a very inspiring story, and he seems to have a great relationship with his kids and all that stuff these days,
He could almost come out with part 2. Everything that's happened since. With Van Halen dying and the stuff with Anthony. I mean, I can't even bring myself to bloody read Anthony's biography because I think it sounds like a load of shit. But
I haven't read it either. Maybe I will. Yeah. Right now I'm in prime novel mode. So
Yeah, well, it just seems like, look, to be honest with you, if you're not putting in the things that are as a result of conflict and confrontation, it's usually just PR. And there's a couple of books out there that are like that where they really talk themselves up. And I'm trying to think, who was that? David Vincent's book was a lot like that for me. I didn't like it at all, actually. And I haven't
read it, yeah.
I like David. I think he's a wonderful musician. I don't want to attack the man here whatsoever, and I don't want anybody to say that I have. But, yeah, I read the book, and first thing, I got about 20 pages and I went, my God. And I think I skimmed the rest. And yeah, you've got to be, these books, the opportunity is to tell your story, warts and all. It becomes a cultural artifact in that way. And look, if the issue with the bitterness thing, I totally understand where you're coming from, but that's really about the perception of people. As you know, people will take whatever they want based on however they're feeling, unfortunately. And there's not a lot you can do about it. Yeah.
No, I know. It's like, but the thing is that, it's been. it was 20 years within Flames. It's a couple of years after, we did other stuff, and some years before, and it's a story to tell, absolutely. And there is no bitterness, but I think that sometimes bad memories, when you write them down and somebody else reads them, like you said, it's the perception. It can come off as bad. So got to be very careful. I have a lot of stuff written down already that I actually wrote. I've been writing all my time throughout In Flames, like snippets here and there. I know how I wanted to start. I have the first chapter. Like this is it.
Good.
But so yeah, maybe one day.
Oh well, look, if you
when I write, I gotta get into writing mode, and I gotta kind of put my mind back then, and it takes some time.
Well, I'll just put it out there. I know you know John Howarth really well. Look, if ever you need a hand, just reach out to him to contact me. I mean, I love doing this sort of stuff. To be honest, it's all a passion project. It's all when I say a hobby, you know what I mean. It's as much a hobby as what everything else is, because you've got to love this and do this. We've all got jobs and everything else, right? But yeah, look, if you're ever stuck, mate, and you ever want to reach out to someone, as I say, I've done a few books at this point in time, and no, I'm not imposing myself in any way. I just love doing it. That's all. That's the only reason I mention it. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for the chat again. Good luck with everything, and fingers crossed we see you down here again sooner rather than later.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you, man.
Well, there you have it. Another conversation with a former member of In Flames, Peter Iwers, the group's bassist, now on the Halo Effect, as he has been for many years. I do enjoy these conversations with former members of In Flames. I love what the Halo Effect do, but it's always nice to talk about what the environment was like in Flames back in that halcyon period. All right, if you enjoyed that one, there are many more conversations just like it over at Scars and Guitars. If you listen this far, chances are actually, I don't know, could you be new to what it is that I do? What is the balance of probability that you've never listened to the show before, or that you know everything about what it is that I do? Well, here's the elevator pitch. Scars and Guitars is all about conversations with musicians. That's pretty much all it is that I do. I do have a once a month music show, but that's still really about the musicians, isn't it? I don't do reactions or any of that bullshit. I don't like any of that stuff. I just have the conversations, principally because I'm a journalist and that's what I enjoy doing. So this show is all about putting things through the lens that I see, extreme metal and beyond, which I do through conversations, through interviews that become more of an exchange. The key here is to ensure that the person that I'm talking to feels very comfortable enough to share an opinion. And that quite often ruffles feathers, and some people like to send me not so much direct messages, don't really get any of that, but I do get comments on YouTube and socials occasionally, and here's the tip: I don't really give a fuck if you don't like what it is that I do. For the rest of you, which is literally 99.9% of you who send me messages of support and who comment in the affirmative, you are fucking awesome, and I really appreciate you. You are fantastic. I do this because I enjoy doing it, but you can't do this in an echo chamber in a bubble. You've got to do this because I feel like I have to do this from the perspective of creating a bit of a community through the listenership. Okay, if you've been listening for a long time, I don't do any of that bullshit Patreon thing and buy me a coffee or buy me a beer or any of that stuff. I just put it out there, and if you like it, you like it. That's what this show is all about. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of Scars and Guitars. Until the next one, it's a goodbye for now.